I'm riding till the wheels fall off.
Oh, that's a great saying.
I'm keeping this chassis as healthy and as attractive as possible, and I'm going to find as many new experiences as I can have until I can't move anymore.
You're watching Chic Innovator. Stay tuned for fascinating topics, fascinating people that have style and are innovative. You're watching Chic Innovator. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's free. Arabel here with Chic Innovator, and I'm going to introduce you to a very chic innovator. She's been involved in politics a little bit, has been involved in healthcare, and now very, very involved in fashion. She just won a couple of awards and is really becoming her own style icon as well as ours. Can't wait for you to meet Teddi. Here we go. We're going to get to know you more because you're just fabulous. I want everybody to know you. So
thank you, Arabel. Well, my name is Teddi Krochman, and I'm currently a content creator on Instagram. My handle is Teddi, T-E-D-D-I, loves fashion, all run together. I also have a small presence on TikTok. I just started that a few months ago. And that one's Teddi Loves Fashion 0 because Teddi Loves Fashion was taken. And I also have a presence on YouTube as well. Same handle, Teddi Loves Fashion. I've been doing that for about 2.5 years. And I met a wonderful woman, I should say, by the name of Melissa Pierce at one of the Curio social mixers. Sure. And Melissa and I started to talk about how we have to come to these lovely fashion events to see people really bringing it with their fashion, and that I was disappointed in a lot of times when I go to these really nice restaurants and people were dressed very casually, almost as if they were going to attend like a backyard barbecue or something like that. And I said, I don't know, why don't we dress for dinner anymore? And Melissa said to me, that's the name of our podcast. And I said, podcast? I don't know how to do a podcast. And she says, oh, I've done a podcast. Melissa had a podcast. Yes. For 6 years prior. Yeah. And we got together and we just clicked. And so we started our own podcast, which we have going currently right now, and it's called Why Don't We Dress for Dinner Anymore? It's available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. And we're just having a great time interviewing people from all over the fashion spectrum. So we've met with designers, we've chatted with stylists, with models, photographers. So we're typically focusing on people from the fashion industry to get their take on why they think that people dress so very casually now, and other fashion topics. I mean, we kind of focus on the psychology of fashion. How does dressing make you feel? The history of fashion. We ask, what's your favorite era in fashion? Because oftentimes, especially designers will do spin-offs of different eras that are their favorites. So that's kind of where our focus is right now. We're really excited about that particular project.
I love it. Too. No, you're doing so many things, and you just won an award recently.
Yes, I did.
Which is how we met.
I did. I won the FGI Rising Star Award in the Content Creator category, which was a great honor. I was there was no way, Arabel. I thought I was going to win that. And they even told us, we want each of you to prepare a 1-minute speech, in case you win or whatever. And I was like, I didn't even think about it. No, I didn't even think
you did great, though.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. And when they said it, I remember just grabbing my face and thinking, did I hear the right name? Because if I didn't and I go up there, I'm going to be so embarrassed, So it was it was a wonderful evening.
I want people to know a little bit about your background because it's a bit eclectic, right? It's you've done a lot of different things. You do kind of say though that you're a late starter. So tell us a little bit about why you identify.
Well, I think it's funny. I'm a late bloomer because I didn't even start college until the age of 28 years old. So you figure I was 10 years behind, my peers, most of my peers who started college right after high school. But don't forget, I was a product of the 70s, so I was in my late teens, early 20s, all through the 70s. So we still had a lot of, even though, the 60s and the 70s were about civil rights and a lot of changes and reproductive rights and gay rights and, all civil rights, all that kind of stuff. There was still a lot of very old-fashioned thinking, especially in my Greek family, So my mother would always tell me, make sure you marry somebody who can support you so you don't have to go to work, So instead of encouraging me to, develop a career, the focus was marry somebody who has enough money to support you so you could stay home and take care of the kids and you don't have to drag yourself to work. My mom, ironically, worked all her life because we had a small snack shop restaurant that my mother and father both ran. So my mother worked there half of the time.
Your parents were entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was raised in an entrepreneurial family.
So it's funny.
Always working.
Always working.
Always
Yet
on.
she told me, so you don't have to work.
Yes.
So I really didn't pursue a career at all. Was kind of a party girl and stuff like that in the early 70s. Met my husband at the age of 21, and we got married at 24, which nowadays would be considered extremely young.
Yeah.
Had my one and only son at the age of 26, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and I got so bored, Arabel, so quickly. It was unbelievable. Within the first 2 years of my son's life, I remember calling my husband at work one day, like almost hysterical, and I said, I can't take this anymore. I have nobody to talk to all day long other than some neighbors occasionally. I says, I have this small child. That's all I focus on. I am going to lose my mind if we don't do something.
And you started talking baby talk. I have a daughter, and it's like you're talking baby talk.
I did. I would say, do you want Melky in your coffee?
Exactly.
Do you want Melky in your coffee?
Yes.
I mean, hello.
Because you're not talking to adults.
Yeah, because I'm not talking to adults for like 2 years.
Yeah.
How much can I vacuum the carpets? How often can I wax the coffee table? So his suggestion was he was going to take our son Alex to this daycare center one day a week, take him on his way to work, drop him off, and pick him up when he comes home from work. So at least I'd have a whole day to myself. So that alleviated that a little bit, but not quite enough. And I remember one day my husband and I were having a conversation. He said to me, well, if you want to get yourself out of the house, why don't you go over to the community college, which for us would have been Elgin Community College, and just take a class and see how you like it. So I did.
He didn't know the door he was opening up.
A huge door.
Yes.
I absolutely loved it. And this is from somebody who hated school. I hated high school other than being a pom-pom girl. That was, the thrill of my life. But B and C student, never if rarely studied, just kind of got by. But when I went to college, I think it was because I was more mature and my mind was more open to the learning experience. I did
You're hungry
great
to learn, probably.
I did great.
Yeah.
I was like at the top of my class all the time.
Okay.
And so I went quickly from going part-time to school to taking my son with me, and they had like a little tot spot area where you could leave your kid at the community college. And I went full-time and got my 2-year degree, and then went to George Williams, which was a private college in Downers Grove, for social sciences, and went there, and my major was psychology. So finished up.
And this is unique, though, isn't it? So they allowed you to bring in your son to the classes?
That was they had like a daycare center
That's
at the
wonderful.
school. Yeah, it was great.
That's wonderful.
Because my child
This
was
was
able to
back
get
in
out
what,
and socialize too.
70s, 80s?
That was in the I would say mid 80s, because
That's
I graduated
fantastic.
in 89.
Yeah. Childcare is such a big
Oh,
issue for so many
huge, because
women.
I don't know what I would have done.
Right.
Then my mother-in-law moved in with us when I went to the 4-year college, and so she was around to take care of Alex at that particular point. But so I majored in psychology, and one of my mentor professors had said to me, I'm going to tell you something, Teddy. If you're going to get your PhD, fine. But if you're just planning on getting a master's degree, I would strongly advise you to get it in social work as opposed to psychology. And I was like, why? And she goes, just go downstairs and look at the job board and you'll see. And she was right. The job board was filled with jobs for people who were social workers, and there were like 2 or 3 jobs for people who had master's degree in psychology. So I ended up going to
That was
Jane.
a very smart recommendation.
Yeah. So I ended up going to Jane Addams School of Social Worker over at University of Illinois Chicago, and I got my master's degree in social work there. But I focused on policy and administration as opposed to clinical work.
Okay.
And so I did 1 year of internship. Everybody had to do a clinical internship in therapy. But my second year's internship was at Senator Paul Simon's office.
Okay.
So I got kind of interested in politics. Ran for, I think, local government as a trustee. And then I ran for state representative.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That's
so
amazing.
I had a somewhat of a political career. Not.
I did a little bit of government too.
Yeah.
I worked for a governor as an advisor, working my way through undergrad.
Oh.
And then I was director of the Liquor Control Commission for the state at one time.
Excellent.
So,
Yeah.
So
I just always
did
found
a few
politics.
campaigns and stuff. Yeah. I think
always
it's
found
the
it very-
best education anybody can
It
get.
is, because you learn so much about talk about psychology.
Yes, about people.
I remember when I was doing my internship for Senator Simon, we were doing all of his invitations that would come in, and he'd get some great invitations, like from Oprah, and he got an invitation to see Luciano Pavarotti, and I was like, oh, we have to agree to go to have Senator Simon go to these. And the people that actually work for him said, no, he doesn't go to that. He's going to go to the Black Chicago South Side breakfast. Then he's going to go to the Latino luncheon, and then he's going to go to the veterans dinner in the evening. So you could see that it was based on constituency.
Yes. Yeah.
Rather than all the glamour that was coming his
Yes.
way as well too. And me, I'm like, oh man,
I was going to
would
say, who was going to the glamour thing?
Nobody. So all those invitations, went down the drain.
I have to tell you, when I worked as an advisor for a governor, like I got to go to some of those because again, they don't go. So then they're like, well, somebody
if
has
you
to
want
go.
It,
and
you can
so
go.
I was like, first one there, you know.
Yeah, but they didn't give the intern that opportunity. I'm sure some of the other people that worked in his office.
Yeah, but that's fantastic though. And then, I tell people when you work on campaigns, and obviously, you did because you were running as well, is you're selling hope. You're selling a vision.
Exactly. Exactly.
You don't have a service or
No.
a product.
No.
And so you really have to learn to understand, and you really have to believe in what
Yes.
you're doing.
Yes.
Otherwise, don't do it.
Absolutely.
But I
absolutely.
bet that was fascinating.
It
for you.
was. It was quite an experience. It really stemmed from. I live in Bartlett, and there was a plan by DuPage County. I live in the part of Bartlett that's in DuPage County, where they wanted to build an incinerator in Bartlett to incinerate garbage. And then they were going to haul the ash from the incinerator to Hinsdale and create an ashville there.
Are they crazy or something?
Well, you can imagine how well that went. So I started a group called Homeowners Against Landfill Trash, HALT.
Okay.
And we got people from Hinsdale, got people from Bartlett, and I led this whole big, a campaign against the incinerator and the ashville. We also piggybacked onto another group from West Chicago who they were battling, I guess there was a chemical called thorium in their soil. Back from World War II, there was some kind of a factory there, and it was a carcinogen. So we kind of linked in with them. I got Senator Simon involved and all that kind of stuff. Went in front of DuPage County Board, gave, I guess, a pretty good speech because at the end of that, the county board voted, and they voted down the incinerator and the ashville. So I got quite a lot of press on that, and then that's when I got encouraged now as a Democrat living in DuPage County.
Oh, that's interesting.
Back
Especially
40
back
years
then,
ago.
yeah.
Now we
'Cause
have
it's
mainly
changed now.
Democrats.
It's changed, yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
one of the biggest Republican stalwarts in Illinois.
Right,
So
right.
here I am, this little Democrat running against a very established Republican candidate. But it was interesting when I went around to a lot of places, how many Republican people came up to me and said, I've got to tell you, I've been a Republican all my life, but I really respect what you said, and you seem like you'd be a really good representative. And that, to me, was enough. I didn't have to win. Just to know that I made some impact somewhere.
Yeah, you touched people's hearts some way. And their intellect, obviously, as well.
Yes.
Okay, but wait a minute, Teddi. We go from your mom at home, and then
graduate degree at 35.
Yeah, but you were at home doing baby talk, and then how did you get all the way to now?
While I was doing the baby talk, I was going to school full time.
Okay.
So I was also a student full time for 6 years.
But what started motivating you? Was it working as an intern in Paul Simon's office?
As far as the political thing?
Yeah.
Yes, always had kind of an interest in politics anyway, and that's why I went into the policy and administration. In social work, we had several categories that you could specialize in within the social work realm. Therapy, of course, was always the biggest one, and I was in the smallest one, which was called policy and administration, which focused more on social policy and administration of non-for-profit organizations, which I eventually became an executive director of a non-for-profit. So that was my kind of focus. That's why I did the Paul Simon internship. And then I also split that year with another organization called Women Employed, and they were advocates for women getting a fair chance in the workplace and being paid fairly and that kind of thing. So another kind of political group. When I ran for office, public office, this is a very funny story. I was working for DuPage County as a therapist in a department called Psychological Services.
Okay.
And what we did was we assessed and then we treated and educated people who got DUIs in DuPage County. So I was doing that.
And they're tough in DuPage County.
Oh, very
still,
tough. We
still
had
very tough.
the toughest judges ever.
Yes, you still do.
Yeah, in fact, we actually had a work release program for multiple DUI offenders where they would actually stay in jail. They would allow them to go out and work during the day, and then they'd have to come to our program at night.
Wow. Okay.
So anyway, while I was doing that, that's when I was running for office and doing all those other things. So those were kind of secondary to my career at DuPage County. So here I am at DuPage County, literally the seat of the government of DuPage County, working there. And I'm running for state representative, and I have all my colleagues wearing buttons. Teddi for state representative.
Oh, I love that.
Little did I know that wasn't allowed to.
I was going to say, isn't that?
To politician, during.
Within government.
Yeah.
You can't do it. Yeah.
So we did that for a while, and then we were told, hey, knock that off. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Take them off.
Yeah, take that off. The DuPage County Board has to vote on everybody's raises, all the employees' raises. And they usually just go through, right? All of a sudden, I get a call from the Chicago Tribune. Miss Krochman, can you tell us your thoughts on how your raise almost got knocked down today by the DuPage County Board? I'm like, what? And they said, yes, your raise only went through by one vote. And I go, what are you talking about? Yes, almost half the board voted down your pay increase. I said, is that because I was running for state representative as a Democrat and they're all Republicans? Well, we don't know. What are your thoughts? So some columnist I was talking to, and I gave him my story, and I thought, well, this is really something. Now that's being prejudiced against somebody just for their political, persuasion. So I guess the head of the county board got wind of that, because I did call the ACLU.
Why not?
I guess he got wind of that. His name was Aldo Botti. He was a one-term chairman of the county board. Called me into his office. I'm telling you, I broke out in red blotches all over my neck. I remember thinking, what is going on,
Oh, when he called you into his office.
Yeah.
I can
and
imagine.
So I called my boss. He says, well, I'll walk you over there, Teddi. And I said, what would Aldo Botti want with me? What's going to happen? So he called me into his office, and he was talking to me very nicely and everything. He says, yeah, I understand that you worked for Paul Simon. I said, yes, I did, And you ran for state representative? Yes, I did. He says, well, I just want you to know one thing, that your job is not in jeopardy based on your political views and what you do, after hours in your job. And I thought, well, he's covering his ass legally.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because he was also an attorney. He was a defense attorney.
Yeah.
But, that was that was quite stirring at that particular time because I had just started in my career. I think I worked in the inpatient program for only about 6 months. I had done an internship at DuPage County, and I called my...
So you were doing several internships, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I had
I
two.
love that. I have to tell you, 'cause
Yeah.
one of the things we do with Pivoting in Heels is we get money to pay for young women to do internships.
Oh,
so
that's
that they're
fabulous, because
paid.
I didn't get paid for any of my
Because
internships.
a lot of them don't get paid. There's a
Yeah.
lot of them that don't. And then, there's women that can't afford not being paid, and so
Yeah.
then they don't get that experience.
Yeah.
So obviously internships were a big part of
Oh,
your
they
career.
were. And they were. The internships really helped to kind of develop my focus, etc. But eventually I went on. I was a therapist for 5 years. I enjoyed it, but you have to be a certain personality to really be able to endure that type of a job for a long period of time, because you are hearing people's very, very difficult stories every day, all day long. And so I found it to be anxiety provoking at times. I found it depressing.
How did you manage that?
It was
though?
very
Because
hard.
that's
It was
a
very hard.
tough-
I knew therapists and therapists who worked for me who were able to just put that aside and then go home and just live their lives. I couldn't. I would keep thinking about them. I just, it was too personal for me. So after about 5 years, I got a position at Elmhurst Hospital as the first manager of business development for behavioral health. That's when managed care first came into being, and behavioral health was an odd bird in that whole group because the hospital was contracting with managed care, but managed care companies were separate for behavioral health. In other words, we had our own contracts for our services, and they had no clue how to manage those. So I, for some reason, was able to talk my way into this job, having no experience with managed care other than a very small amount when I worked as an employee assistance program therapist, and we also had to manage some of the lives that we were providing care for.
What motivated you to do that?
Because it was interesting to me because it was the business side of things.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, I could still stay in the business, but I could still stay in behavioral health, but I would move into the business side of things.
You want to do more management or?
More management,
Okay.
yeah. So when I was manager of business development, I ended up doing all of the contract negotiations for the hospital for the behavioral health side of things, and I also did marketing. And I was in that position for about 15 years. Then I became the manager of outpatient clinical services and business development, so then I had 2 positions, and then finally ended up the director of my department. So I ran an inpatient unit, partial hospital, intensive outpatient program, individual therapy, and we also had social workers in the emergency room. So it was pretty extensive level of services.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 5 years.
So I'm curious because what did your husband think during all this time? You've been married now for how many years?
46 years.
46 years.
46 years.
And he has seen you blossom. I mean,
Yes.
grow. I mean, he gave you the idea to go get
My husband has
sunglasses.
always, Arabel, my husband has always been my biggest supporter. When I was campaigning for state representative, my husband ran my campaign.
I love
He would
that.
get all my speaking engagements lined up. He did all the press conferences. He had people who were helping us on the campaign, phone bankers. He went to the unions. He raised the money. I mean, he was
Sounds
the
like
backbone.
he's so proud of you.
Yeah,
too.
he was the backbone of the whole thing.
Love that.
And I have to say, throughout my career, my husband, Ken Krochman, I have to give a shout out to him.
Yes.
Has always been my biggest
Yeah, and he's here
cheerleader.
today. I mean, he's waiting
He's here
out
today
there
waiting for me
patiently,
because
which I love
I
that.
won't drive downtown, so he'll chauffeur me all over.
So you have to tell us a little bit. I want to know. So how did you meet? You've known each other since you were
21. We met at the age of 21. I actually dated a friend of his for a while, and then his friend and I broke up. And then fast forward a few years later, I met Ken, who was my previous boyfriend's friend, and he was with a group of his friends at a local dance bar club that we used to have back in the 70s called the Thirsty Whale.
like the name Thirsty Whale.
And he kind of was, flirting with me and that kind of thing. I thought he was all right. He was cute, but, whatever. So I gave him my phone number, and I remember telling my mother, well, he's kind of cute. He reminds me a little bit of Freddie Prinze. He's all right, this and that. So when he came to the door, I remember I was still getting dressed, and my mom ran back to my room, and she says, oh my gosh, he's so cute. He's so nice. Now, you have to know that I had several boyfriends before Ken. And there wasn't one that my mother had a response to like she did with Ken.
So she really liked him.
She liked Ken like from the very beginning, and they always had a fabulous relationship throughout. And we just kind of started dating. We found out we had so much in common, and I think that's really what drove the spark between the two of us, is that we enjoy the same kind of movies. We enjoy the same politics. We enjoy the same type of humor, so there were so many commonalities.
What's kept the magic going for so many years?
Well, there's ups and downs in the magic.
Yes, of course.
It's like some magical, believe me, there's times when, you've had it with each other.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's just a respect for each other, and admiration and respect for each other. And I think a deep love. We have a family together. We've been together for so long. We've shared so many life experiences that I think, even in the rough times, there's that history that keeps you together. Because you can't just dump it all in the garbage because of a few bad moments, So we've had our ups and downs, and we've had a few bad moments, but we've always seemed to be able to repair that and come back.
Well, you
together.
had a really tough moment because you're a cancer survivor, so you went
Yes.
through a very tough period.
Which, again, Ken was my stalwart person when it came to that. But it's funny, Arabel, in a way. I dealt with a lot of cancer before I got my own cancer. My business assistant passed away from ovarian cancer, and I supported her during her chemo and all that kind of stuff. My mom passed away at the age of 74 from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. My sister had colon cancer at the age of 58. Now, she survived it, and she's doing well. So I was surrounded by so much cancer that I always had in the back of my mind, when is my cancer going to come? So when I did get the cancer diagnosis, this was interesting. I had just retired, Arabel. It was only a month. And I had gone to get my mammogram because every year I went faithfully, but the year before I skipped it just because I was so busy. I was breaking free with another organization called Mutual Ground. So I had a lot of work, and I skipped it that year. So I thought, I got to get my mammogram this year. So the doctor calls me, and he says to me, have you made an appointment with a surgeon yet? I said, what surgeon? What are you talking about? He goes, I just looked at your mammogram.
Oh, my God.
And I will tell you that there's a 99% chance that you have breast cancer. You need to get to one of these surgeons for a biopsy ASAP. I'm going to give you the name of 3 surgeons. And he says, if you were my wife, I would tell you to make an appointment for Monday. Now, this was right before the Christmas holidays.
Wasn't it around COVID too? Wasn't there?
Well,
COVID came.
The treatment started during COVID.
Wow.
So, my niece and I had reservations at the Drake. We wanted to go to a big blowout New Year's Eve party, and we were going with our husbands to the Drake Hotel. So I said to the doctor, well, could this wait until after the first of the year? Because we have reservations at the Drake. I did.
Oh my God.
We have reservations at the Drake, and I really don't want to miss it. And I got a dress for, and he was like, okay. He says, but if you promise me you call right now and you make an appointment for January 2nd. So I did. And of course, when I went and the surgeon did the biopsy, he says, yes, you have cancer. The worst part about it was that I said, well, will I need chemo? And he goes, well, when I find out from the pathologist.
But Teddi, weren't you scared? I mean, weren't you in your mind going through?
No, I think my mind just went blank because I dealt with so much cancer. It was like, okay, I'll get through this somehow or whatever. And
just took it on. You're like, I can handle this.
Well, and the surgeon said to me, only about 25% of women with breast cancer nowadays receive chemo. Most of them just get lobectomies and radiation. So I thought, I could do that.
Okay.
He called me the following Saturday. He says, "I'm sorry, but you have HER2-positive breast cancer, which is a very aggressive form of breast cancer. So you are going to have to go through chemotherapy, lumpectomy, radiation, and you're going to have more infusions after that." So I literally went through 14 months straight of cancer treatment. And
it was almost like treating a couple of layers of cancer.
It was over a year. Most people don't go through a year
Right.
of cancer treatment. And so that diagnosis was verified in January. I started in the early part of February, and then a month later, COVID hit. So it was after my first chemotherapy,
Wow.
COVID hit. And really, it was COVID that scared me more than the cancer, because now I had no immune system. And they're talking about, these people being rushed to the hospital and being put on these intubators. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this couldn't be the worst thing that could ever happen. And at that point, that was before we had vaccines or knew really much of what was going on. Mm-hmm. And we were wearing the cloth masks that we figured out now really don't do much of anything, but they would provide us with cloth masks. We couldn't have visitors at the chemo anymore because of COVID. So it was very, very stressful.
Very isolating, I would think.
Very isolating. Yeah. The one thing that I would say wasn't so bad about the whole COVID thing, if I could say one positive thing, was, going through cancer treatment really takes a toll on your physical and mental health. And so being isolated kind of in our little COVID cocoons really wasn't so bad for me at that particular point, because I didn't need to go and socialize. I didn't need to put on the happy face. I didn't need to, get dressed up and put on a wig and all that kind of stuff, which may have helped me, when you think about it now. But I think at that point, I was just appreciative that I didn't have that other layer of having to socialize.
Yeah.
So in some ways it was a little bit beneficial.
Because it sounds like you were a very social person, so that you
I am, and it as COVID kept going on, I was getting more depressed and feeling isolated, and that's really when I started going on Instagram and just looking at. I wasn't a big social media person before that. Started looking on Instagram and seeing other mature women that I thought looked beautiful, and I'm thinking, I could probably do something like that. I could dress up, and Ken could take pictures of me.
I love it.
So Ken, of course, is my photographer.
Yes.
He does all my Instagram content, photographs, all of it.
Oh, so he still does. So the two of you work on this together.
Ken does it all.
Okay.
Yeah, he does it all.
Yeah.
So that's really how I got started on Instagram, was just being bored from COVID and looking at Instagram and thought, well, let me try it myself.
So where are we at on cancer right now? It's in remission?
I'm on 4 years right now so far. It's like there's no cure for breast cancer, so it could come back at any time. The type of cancer that I have tends to be, because it's more aggressive, if it is going to come back, tends to come back earlier. It's not as latent most of the time as some other breast cancers can be, because there's many women, and I'm sure you've heard Olivia Newton-John, several other people who've had their cancers come back after 10, 15, 20 years of being cancer-free.
Tell us about your mental attitude now. Has that changed at all after this? Because I believe, right, that so much of your immune system is built up by what you eat, by your environment, but also your mental attitude.
Absolutely.
Right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and you're right, Arabel. Because of the cancer and the COVID and all that kind of isolation and everything, and getting started on Instagram, one of the really nice things was I started to pick up followers pretty swiftly. So that was very, encouraging and everything. But I'm also, a woman, a mature woman. When you get to this part of your life, you can either do what I see a lot of people do, and that's kind of give up and just whatever, sit at home, watch TV, go out occasionally, mainly dote on their grandchildren or whatever. Or you can just continue to live your life. And, I love the saying, I'm riding till the wheels fall off.
Oh, that's a great saying.
I'm keeping this chassis as healthy and as attractive as possible. and I'm going to find as many new experiences as I can have until I can't move anymore, because I really feel that that's what keeps me vibrant, and that's what keeps me excited and interested. I can't imagine, especially after being a career person for 30 plus years, where you're used to that grind every single day and you've got to perform and you're meeting goals and all that kind of thing, to go from a very goal-driven person to just sitting at home and really not having much to do, just doesn't fit with my personality.
You've created this new life for yourself, really.
Yes, and it really just kind of fell into place,
Do you watch your diet, though? I mean, are you conscious of your diet? So
Absolutely,
you try to eat healthy
absolutely.
things?
One of the things that, if nothing else, I get through to your listeners is one of the things that I learned is that alcohol is a carcinogen.
Oh, okay.
And me being a substance use therapist, you'd think I'd know that, but I didn't. In fact, for many years we were told if you drink a glass of red wine or two a day, that's healthy for you. Mm-hmm. So I would come home from work, de-stress, pour myself a glass of wine almost every day.
Feel like it's resveratrol?
Yeah, have a couple more on the weekends if we went out to dinner, that kind of thing. And one of the things that the nurses said to me after my cancer diagnosis was, "Are you a heavy drinker?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, why?" "Well, because, drinking will exacerbate and contribute to cancer." And I said, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
And so once I got done with all my chemo and everything.
Even the red wine?
Even the red wine, it's all bad for you. There is no such thing as a good drink.
Okay.
Especially for women. And the reason for it is many of the breast cancers are estrogen driven. And this is something that I didn't know about alcohol, but alcohol will increase your estrogen levels. Mm. And so it will feed, if there's a tumor starting up in your body, it will literally feed the tumor.
And it's the alcohol, not the sugar?
No, it is the alcohol.
Alcohol, okay.
It is any form of alcohol. It doesn't matter, beer, wine, cocktail, whatever. There really is no good alcohol for women. It's not only related to breast cancer, it's also related to colon cancers and several other types of cancers.
Who knew? Okay.
So
I'm not a big drinker anyway.
Yeah. But I would have my daily, drink.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore. So yes, I don't drink very much. Only at social events I'll have a couple of drinks or something like that. I do watch my diet very stringently. I try to eat very healthy. I don't eat fast foods at all. Mainly we cook at home, and when we go out to dinner, I try to order something that's fairly healthy on the menu. I haven't eaten red meat for probably 20 years, other than, I will confess, I do love a hot dog.
Oh, really? A hot dog?
I do love a hot dog. Probably the worst
At a ball
meat that
game,
you
or
can
you
eat.
just like a hot dog?
Everywhere.
Oh, okay.
So I will allow myself like 4 or 5 hot dogs a year.
What do you put on your hot dog?
Everything.
Everything?
Everything you can think of but the kitchen. I love a hot dog, which is, like I said, probably the worst processed meat that you can eat, but I will limit it.
It's your treat. You
It's
have to have a treat. I
my
believe
treat.
strongly you have to have
Yeah,
something
it's
that's
my
your
treat.
Yeah.
And I do make sure that I exercise daily if I can. I have an exercise bike. I'll get on that for about an hour, watch TV or whatever. So I watch my diet. I do exercise. I try to eat healthy.
Mentally.
And then I reduce the alcohol.
Do you do affirmations, positive mental thing? Is there anything that you
want to know what my
meditate?
affirmation
I don't
is?
know.
It's, people will say, don't you get tired of the grind on Instagram and this thing? I said, how would you like to wake up every single morning and the first thing you see when you get up are compliments? I have the nicest followers. I have to say, my followers are so kind and sweet and supportive. And I try to be the same for many of them as well, too. So
funny you say that, because
it really,
I know.
It's
I have
just
the nicest people too that follow, and I'm just so grateful to them.
It's so nice to have, especially women. Yeah. That women supporting women is just so refreshing. Because,
it's so nice. Yeah.
I come from a time, too, when women were pitted against each other. It was constant competition, that kind of thing. And now I find it much more invigorating and much more open and supportive and happy for you when you succeed.
Yes.
And so that really keeps me going too.
Successful friends that are doing really great, and they're succeeding, and you've just got to support them and we motivate each other
Yes.
and get excited about what each one is doing
Absolutely.
and are there for each other.
Yeah,
which is
and I
really
think
great.
that's what really keeps me positive, is to
Love
have
it.
so many lovely people in my life.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've created like this wonderful life, and
Well, I helped, I guess, but it's just I'm lucky that it unfolded the way it did too.
no, it sounds like it's wonderful.
Yeah.
What do you see yourself doing like in 5 years? Is there
I,
something?
I'm never a believer in the 5-year plan, because I always say that, anytime you make a plan, it falls through. It's not like I don't have make plans, small plans, but I don't believe in 5 years down the road. I mean, at my age, in my last podcast with Melissa, I was saying, Melissa, it's so funny that I got this Rising Star Award. That's why I call myself a late bloomer. A Rising Star Award at the age of 70. I said, at 70, you would think they'd be lowering you somewhere, not rising. You'd be lowering.
No.
So, it's just, things have kind of come to me in a very positive way. Hopefully I'm helping to contribute to some of that positive energy.
I think you attract what you are, and you're very positive.
I
You've got
agree
this
to
great
that.
energy,
I agree.
and
I
you just
agree.
kind of glow. And
Yeah,
so you
I
attract
agree
kind
to
of the
that.
same
I
type of
think
people.
if you are welcoming to people, if you are positive, that you do attract those kinds of people to you too.
It's easy to see why you attract those kinds
Thank
of people.
you.
So tell us a little bit about fashion. So the chic innovator. You've obviously innovated a lot in your life, and you've created some great things. But describe your style for us.
Well, I would say my style is mainly based on my two biggest role models in my life, my mom and my Aunt Connie. My mom was always, although she was not a wealthy woman, she always knew how to put herself together. And she would always wear a beautiful blouse and a black sheath, a black pencil skirt or a beautiful sheath dress. We always had beautiful jewelry because I was lucky. I had an aunt who worked for, I don't believe they're around anymore, but it was a big jewelry company in Chicago called Pakula. And she worked for one of their buyers, and she would get all these samples of jewelries and bring them to us.
Fun.
Oh my gosh, she would bring boxes and boxes of jewelry, so we never were without jewelry, both good and costume jewelry. So my mom always dressed, always accessorized beautifully, and my Aunt Connie was a shopper. That's where I kind of got my shopaholic tendencies, were from my Aunt Connie. We did a lot of shopping at Marshall Field's and Charles A. Stevens, which is no longer around either. But I did a lot of shopping with my Aunt Connie, had a lot of good times with her. So I'd say my fashion sense was launched by them. My fashion style, I think, is more influenced by the era where I was developing as a woman, which would be the 70s. So I kind of like a little bit of boho chic, but a lot of disco glamour. The disco years were some of my favorite, Studio 54 and all that kind of stuff.
All right, I have to know. What was your favorite club?
Well, we used to go to a club called Mother's.
Mother's, the one
on Rush
downtown
Street.
On Rush Street.
Right? It's still around, too,
it's
isn't
still
it?
there.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, it's
because
still
when
there.
I'm talking about Mother's, that was like 50 years ago.
Oh my goodness!
Mother's.
I used to go hang out
They
there.
had live bands there, all that kind of stuff.
I just passed by there the other day, and it was packed outside.
Yes,
it was like
it amazes me because, like I said, that was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And Rush was a very big club area. They had a place called Faces that would attract a lot of celebrities. We went there. There was the BBC Bicycle Club, Faces. There were a lot of those kinds of bars, but we did go to Mother's most.
Okay, Mother's.
Mother's with their live, and they had live bands. That was before disco even, where they had the DJs and all that kind of thing. So there was a lot of live bands and things.
So if you're to recommend to our audience a way to create style, like if you're to say, these are my 3 secrets for putting together great style, what would that be?
Well, I would say plan. Now, this is, just telling you, I don't plan, but I do plan clothes.
Okay.
I mean, Arabel, when you invited me to the Latinx fashion show, and I asked you what the thing, how I was supposed to dress, right away I'm going through my wardrobe.
Right away said shimmer. We do recommend, we do suggest what to wear.
Well, I came in a full Liberace, just so you know.
She looked fabulous.
But anyway, right away I was thinking, what am I going to wear? What am I going to wear? What I would say is, if you're going to look and feel confident, never go in your closet the morning that you're getting dressed and just pull out whatever and stick it on your body. You're just going to be doing that as a perfunctory thing. You have to cover your body, and so you're just putting it on. Make it something that's fun. For the entire time that I was working, I would literally pick out my outfit the day before based on what I was going to be doing at work. So if I was going to an important meeting, I'd wear a more serious suit. If I was going to be meeting with staff, I'd wear something that made me look a little bit more approachable, that kind of thing. So always plan what you're going to wear. Number 2, I would say always accessorize. Accessories to me are the key between somebody who has style and somebody who just put on something to wear. The accessories are always going to pull the look together, whether it's a belt, your jewelry, your hair, your bag, whatever, your shoes. All of that is very important. So it's very important to kind of, when you plan an outfit, it's kind of like putting a puzzle together.
Pins.
Yes. It's like putting a puzzle together.
Yes.
And so when you get the puzzle just right, then you put it on, you step out, you feel confident, you exude the way you feel, and your day is pretty much...
And voila. And voila.
Voila.
Well, listen, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you,
Any other message
Arabel.
you'd like to send to the audience?
Nothing other than just, stay fashionable. If you feel like just wearing your sweatpants and your same old sweatshirt today, maybe challenge yourself and do something a little different. Maybe put on that cute pair of jeans and a little crisp blouse, and maybe add a few necklaces and some earrings, and you'll see that it'll really change the focus of your day.
Oh, I love you. Thank you so much for being here. You're fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Chic Innovator. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's free.